So remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about a point of reference, a model that shows that my models are more fair and logical than the governing class's models. I'm going to give you like 6 points and just make a few more discussion points and we'll wrap this up. Point number 1. In this model, we keep what is basically a two-party system. Point number 2. I am compensated and no longer targeted and made famous, and I'm given a following, while the Jews and the LGBT community take more and more of the country, except certain regions. And of course, I don't have any children. No matter what, I do not plan to have children. Okay, so some of you might say, well, they don't want it to be emphasized that the Jews and the LGBT community are taking the country by storm. Okay, well, everyone knows it, so I'm just going to put that out there. And it's safe to say 99% plus of people who hear it will know for sure that I'm right, and maybe even 100%. Okay. Point number 3. Certain regions in the South are made ultra-red, and Jews start to withdraw from those regions. And certain sub-regions of those regions are made white only. Okay. Point number 4. We passed both my War on Poverty plan in the 5.44 trillion form over 30 years, okay, and my food program, my global food program plan. So one plan is basically just wealth taxes that are affordable. The rich will still be rich every step of the way, 30 years later, what have you. Okay, and it comes with a global food program plan, and both plans come with cost-effective spending. Also, okay, healthy people on welfare are required to work 8 hours a month to help them transition over a long period of time, to help the whole community transition to a much lower welfare rate, and to help them transition back to work. So the government provides them jobs in exchange for their welfare, right? And over time, between the War on Poverty plan, okay, which includes, housing the homeless, food programs, things that will make it easier for people to go to work and find their flow, between that and the work program for the people who are healthy on welfare, okay, we'll see the welfare rate drop, which means there's more money in the budget, okay, what have you. Or we can spend that money that we'd otherwise spend, seeing how the government goes over their budget, like Donald Trump went over $8.4 trillion or so. Okay. Point number 5. The tubes-tied arguments that I make, okay, are pushed in every nation in the world so that they can get females to tie their tubes at the same rate, right, proportionate to their population, what have you, across the world, so you're not focusing on just people of color or whatever. Okay. Keep in mind that with my War on Poverty plan, going back to point number 4 real briefly, that if you're worth $3 million, in 20 years, you'll have paid $320,000 in wealth taxes for the War on Poverty plan here in America and the Global Food Program plan. Okay. And so that person's worth $3 million, just paid that. And they, say they bought a house, at some point worth $1 million, and it doubles, right? It's worth $2 million 20 years later. So they'll still have more money, 20 years later if they played their cards right than they had, initially. So it's very affordable for them. And it would bring $180 billion a year, except for 220 the first year, okay, to America for tiny homes and food programs and small homes and affordable housing. And it'll also bring $180 billion for a global food program. And I'm asking every nation in the world to match that based on their economy. So if their economy is half as large as America, they spend $90 billion a year for food programs, farming programs for the world to, help them have sustainable farms. And for those nations that have more trouble farming than others, they get shipments from the nations who can farm effectively. And keep in mind, how much they get paid for their work is much less than here in America. How much it costs to build things abroad, generally speaking, is less than it costs in developed nations, right? So in abroad in nations that aren't developed. Okay. Again, going back to point number 2, they stop targeting me, which means they stop making it harder for me to speak. They stop fuming me, what have you. Okay. To some degree, we see that people do not appreciate the fact that what is right is greater than what is socially normative. I'm not having any children, which means there will be no possible way for people to be righteous after I'm gone. And this is part of what the governing class wanted. They want an evil world. So part of what's going to happen, and it's going to happen whether they agree to this model or not, is there not going to be any righteous people after my flesh dies. They only have to, quote unquote, tolerate me for as long as I live. Okay, then my flesh dies, I'm gone, no one's righteous, no one continues my philosophy, there's no way to continue it. So this model is more than fair for them. The rich will still be rich. Okay, those people who are white racists will have their little region. There's nothing people can do about the fact that the Jews and the LGBT community are taking more and more of the country. But if they really want to come together and face them, hey, I prefer that to this model, but they're not going to do that. Me saying this isn't going to change anything. Okay, but it needs to be said. So if I was to say this to any group, okay, and I said it better than I've said it in this video, and I'm not going to take a long time making it because I already have to put the clips together, because they've been fuming me the whole time, and they're fuming me in my house, in my car, in both cars, and my father's car, okay, on my property, when I go outside to Morgan Hill, to the park, or go to San Jose, everywhere I go, they fume me. I have 23 witnesses on record. It is retarded to not believe someone about the fact they're fumed. Someone who's smart and sharp. Okay? How much more when that person has 23 witnesses? So I'm not going to tolerate people who say, well, maybe you're just crazy. I'll just block that because I have 23 witnesses. Okay. On record, mind you. Now, if I said this to, to people out there, right? The people would act very funny. They'd freeze. And they say, well, the reason why people are acting that way is people don't usually say that. If I said to the black community, someone would be like, brother, shut your mouth. Okay? People don't truly appreciate that what is right is greater than what is socially normative. Now, I know that I've made it a little bit confusing in this video again. It's because of the fumes and the poisons that I'm going to have to put this out there in the form that it's going to be in. And they'll probably edit it to make it sound funnier, what have you. But it shouldn't be very hard for you to understand what I'm saying. If a little kid can put together a 1,000-piece puzzle, you can put together what the fuck I've said here. There's only minor mistakes and a little bit of confusion here and there. It's pretty straightforward. It's not like your Bible that you people go to church every Sunday for. Many of you go to church on Sunday for a Bible that is extremely confusing that you nowhere near understand. Many of you swear up and down that you understand it, but you don't. But here is something you can easily understand. Also keep in mind, I'm not gay. I don't naturally sound like a gay person. I don't sound like some kind of nerdy sounding gay person on the news or something, or someone giving a PowerPoint presentation or a TED Talks or IQ squared presentation who's a nerdy, gayish person. Okay. I don't respect the government for their decision to try to make it so I sound like that, for the governing class who are pulling their strings. Okay. The government is a joke. The governing class is more of a joke. If you don't know that, you need to get your head checked.